Hi. I have been trying for weeks to get around to showing how I've come along with Journal 1 of the 100 Tiny Paintings Challenge, and I have gotten way behind. I planned on having all 3 journals done, 100 paintings done by now. My year is a ways off yet, but I figured I would have the first 100 done and start on the next 100 way before now, but you know, life got in the way. Okay, one thing you need to know about this is, one stipulation I made for myself is every painting stays in. I can't tear any out. I mean, I could tear one out if I wanted to, put it on a card front or something like that. But the rule is, keep every painting. Don't be afraid to show the failures and the ones you hate as much as the ones you love. So, here we go. And the first one, I hate. It was done in the cafeteria at Bassett, of the girl sitting across the dining hall from me. Excuse my hands. I can't feel the edges of the pages tonight. And forgive the really gross looking hands. They're not dirty, but they're heavily stained. You won't get any pretty, well manicured YouTube hands here, I'm afraid. And the second one, this is one of my collection of Dutch dolls. It doesn't look like her. And I'm not happy with this one either, but it's okay. It stayed. One thing you will see is that I am fixated on little houses. I don't know why I'm fixated on little houses for everything I do. Sketches of little houses, paintings of little houses. I build little houses. I'm a miniaturist, and I make little houses and little room boxes, and I don't know where it comes from, but here's the first of the many little houses. And here's another one, a little house in the snow. My preferred method is called line and wash. Watercolor enhances a ink drawing. I like to draw with black or gray or very dark brown or even sepia ink, and then watercolor to color it. So you will see a lot of line and wash and a lot of houses. Like this one. I'm not happy with this one. As you'll probably see as we go along, I have an intense problem with overworking. And one of the goals of doing the 100 Tiny Paintings is to try to get out of the habit of overworking every painting. As you'll also see by the end, it's not a lesson I really learned. If I don't like something, especially like this, when it has to stay in the book, I'll keep overworking it until I am relatively happy to leave it there. Not always. Sometimes it just gets worse and worse, but anyway, that's what I tend to do, is overwork things. This is based on a tutorial by, oh no, I forgot his name. There's this artist that does these very fanciful little houses and landscapes and places of imagination. And I just love his stuff. I watch all his videos and his tutorials. And sometimes, especially when I can't think of anything myself, I'll base one of my little paintings on one of his tutorials. This one was inspired by a couple of the tutorials. But I just love his fanciful fantasy houses and his whimsical little trees. And I just love it. This is in that same genre. I really like this one though. There's just something about the foreground with the little Queen Anne's lace and the house in the background. I just really like this one. I like the way the sky came out especially. I don't know how this is going to look on screen because I don't have proper lighting and I don't have a decent phone camera, whatever. So that's another reason it took me a while to upload this, is I just didn't have the right equipment to do these things. But it's okay. I'll show you anyway. This one I love too. Birds on a wire. I did some color lifting on the lawn, and I believe the sky was washed and lifted, as well as the roof. And the ink work on this was a little bit heavier point, and even though it's fairly detailed, I don't know how well it shows up on this, it's quite detailed, and even though I used a heavier nib, it still came out quite crisp. This one is just watercolor, no ink. I take that back, I lied. There's highlights of bright sunlight done in white ink on top. Some laundry on the line. I really like this one too. And I love this one, but again, talk about overworking things. I could not get the shoreline and the rocks with the walkway out into the water. I could not get it right. I worked it and worked it and worked it. I like it. I love the result. But I definitely overworked it. There's smoke coming out of the fire. And of course my little dream camper that I have yet to manifest in real life. There's another one of the whimsical little houses. I like this too. I love the intense gold. In an outhouse in a meadow of wildflowers. I like the sky on that particularly. And birch trees. Everybody loves birch trees. Watercolorists love birch trees, especially just the trunks. They're very interesting. They're very nice to look at. I don't know. But they're really fun to paint. There's so many techniques for doing them, and I love to paint birch trees. But I like the sunset. I like the colors of this. And an overworked flamingo. Something's not right with his head, but oh, I know why I was doing this. I was playing around with the I can't remember the name. They're sets of granulating watercolors. I'll put the name in the description because the name is on the tip of my tongue, but I've lost it. But they're a company. I'm not sure where they're coming from. I think they're Japanese, and they have a couple sets of highly granulating colors, and they're just very dull when you look at them in the palette, and you wet them down really well, and you have to use them on super wet paper. But then they separate into the most beautiful patterns and colors on their own. They're fascinating to work with. Every time you use one, it's an adventure. So that's why I was doing that. And I used those again on the sky and the water. Little camping scene. My little tent came out pretty yucky, but pretend the tent's not there, and it's a lovely little landscape with a setting sun back there on a stormy day. I really like that, mostly. And a funny little cat. I love him. I need to do some more funny little cats, I think, because I really like him. And again, this is the granulating watercolors done on super, super wet paper. The watercolors themselves do most all of the work. You can arrange the puddles or arrange the water itself, but then you just sit back and watch and wait for these pigments in these luscious watercolors to just separate and create these beautiful effects. I love them. Very spring-like. It must have been spring when I did this one. A tree in blossom. I like this in a very simple greeting card type of way. I do like it. And a tattered house, which again, I kept overworking and I'm not too fond of it. I have the worst time with perspective. I draw tons and tons of houses, and houses are my favorite subject, and I have studied perspective and I practice perspective, but every time I draw a little house on one of these little paintings, the perspective is not what I want. I screw it up all the time. This one was just straight on. Single plane perspective, so that was easy. But I was just playing mostly with the tree. I like the tree. And there's a overworked little finch. I'll tell you why this is overworked. This started out with a very plain pale blue and green background with a bokeh effect. I keep putting my hands in front of what I'm doing here, which is stupid. It's not a good thing. Sorry. I'm not looking at my screen, and I'm not paying attention to what I'm doing. But it was supposed to be a pale green and pale blue background, quite plain, with a bokeh effect, which is a circular, round, faded area like you see photographers use. But it just wasn't coming out right, so I just kept going. And then I decided, okay, I got these little light spots I'm going to put flowers in, and I might as well put more twigs in. But anyway, I love his face. I love his little beak and his little eye. Those make me very happy, so I still like him. And I love this silly little bird. Again, this is the granulating watercolor, where most of the work is done in arranging the puddles of water and then floating in the paint and manipulating it until it starts to open up and split into colors, and then adding other granulating colors, more plain ones, to enhance certain areas and get more color. But I love this little guy. He's got a really nice little beak. And I love this little guy. I love the color of his beak and his breast in particular. The background is the granulating colors and his body. I like him. He's cute. This is a style that I used to do a lot many years ago, particularly when I was in some collaborative block printing exchanges, projects. I had to have a, we each had to have a fantasy land of our own, the story and stuff, but my land was, excuse me, my land had the houses on top of these mounds of eroded and weathered land masses where all that was left after the great floods were these big pillars of earth with soil on top that would bear plants, and we built the little houses on top of these mounds of earth and hollowed out passages and rooms within them to get up to the little houses. And it's not even original. It came this type of structure with the land masses with the grass on top and the buildings on the top came from a television show from decades ago. It was a children's program with a guy that did these illustrating episodes where he drew with ink markers or something, I believe it was, on big sheets of paper, or it was on a screen. I don't remember well at all, but I do remember that these are the types of scenes he was drawing and what his fantasy world was based on. And I keep meaning to try to find what the television show was, and I don't remember. I remember nothing about it. I don't remember the name of the artist. I don't remember what year it was. All I remember is it absolutely fascinated me, and I retained that fantasy landscape. If it rings a bell with you at all, and anybody knows what the name of the show was, let me know in the comments, because I would really like to see them again for nostalgia's sake. And we have another blossomy tree. I'm sorry, that last one I really went on for a long time with, didn't I? I'm probably putting everybody to sleep by now. And another little finch bird. I'm not too happy with him. Am I getting one page? Yeah. I love this one. This is a more lifting techniques, but I love the colors and the vibrancy of the sunset. And this was all colored and then wet lifted with a dry brush to create the rays and overlays of, if the colors are showing up well on this, it's overlays of dark green, forest green, and then the foreground is created by scratching, lifting the watercolor to create lighter colored twiggy formations. I like this one a lot. And there's another of the, did I say what his name was? I can't remember if I did last time, because I never get his name right. Because when I'm talking like this, my brain, blanks. It's a ADD thing. But Gary Fredericks, I believe it is. If I'm wrong, I'll correct it in the comments. But this is directly off of one of his tutorials, because I was trying to emulate his lovely little trees. They have kind of a Dr. Seuss type of look. I don't know, only better. And the little guy painting on the deck there. I loved the tutorial that he was doing, so I tried to do a little mini version of it. Of course, his is much better, but I'm happy with mine too. And there's a little fantasy house. It's a enamelware coffee pot, if you can tell that. It has a built-on deck and the nice little trees. I had a lot of fun with this one. The stones going up to the foundation and the path with the, I don't know how well it's showing up on the screen, but there's all these little tiny flowers and the path. Everything has some really good dimension and perspective for some reason on this one. There's a dinner bell to ring. I really like this one. The sky was a wet wash and clouds lifted out. Okay, now another funny little bird. Again with the granulating colors. But see, here's where I'm trying to get looser and not overwork things. And sometimes it works out, and this is just like splattered and loose, and I like it. I like the granulating colors. I love those granulating paints. And here's some flowers. This one shows up more than some of the others, the salt lifting technique, where the blue has been lifted off with salt. Put a wash of paint. When it hits a certain level of wetness, you just sprinkle salt all over it. And the salt absorbs the pigment and some of the moisture and leaves beautiful patterns. I like how this one turned out. Oh, and that's the last one of this book. So that's the first installment of 100 tiny paintings. And I think there's, I don't remember, I think there's like 32 or 33 pages in this. I'm not sure if I remember. But I'm only a third of the way to 100. And I don't know if I'll make it to a year, within a year, but it's pretty loose. It's not a formal challenge. It's just a self-imposed challenge. So I can move and adjust my deadline as needed. Okay. Hopefully I'll get another book done to show you soon. Bye for now.